Hello, everyone. Welcome back to yet another political episode. So, Red Eagle Politics released a pretty interesting video that I highly recommend watching, and I want to do like a follow-up because there are actually some disagreements I have. First off, I do not think it's going to be as aggressively Republican in all the swing states as like what he's saying. Yes, I do have some minor disagreements with Arizona. Nevada, I think I agree with him a lot. But anyway, we're going to do basically like a follow-up, and basically states generally are my map of the battleground states for 2028 are relatively more different compared to his battleground states. In his battleground, New Mexico's state, and Arizona isn't. It's actually solid Republican. I disagree. Arizona is just a state that's really hard to keep track of, and we saw in 2024 Donald Trump surging in that said state. And that was pretty good because, as you know, Republicans were very concerned about how Phoenix would show up. Phoenix would basically with Maricopa County, we know it's reliably, you have to win the county in order to win the election. I mean, here's the deal. Democrats have to win the county in order to win the election. There's no pathway forward for Democrats without it. It's not enough to carry like Tucson and Pima County. You can get that up to 60%. It still doesn't matter. It's still not enough. You just need Maricopa County and you're good to go. While Republicans, they can live without Maricopa County, but they just really have to perform really good in Pinal and Yuma counties. Those suburban kind of counties that are influenced a bit, have some Phoenix suburbs there. But that's what they kind of have to do. While in this performance, yes, Donald Trump did very well. Yes, 52 to 46%. People say, "Oh, it's Republican now." And I'm saying, yeah, I'm not necessarily going to declare that the case. Here is why. We have seen Arizona this is what the Democrats have said when Biden won the state. It's Democrat, it's blue, it's never going Republican ever again. They doubled down on it more when what's his name? Mark Kelly won his election in 2022. He was reelected and of course Kari Lake lost her election to Katie Hobbs. So they doubled down on it. But then what happened? It went the other way. So I think Arizona relatively is a state that's extremely hard to watch. I am not downplaying it. I think Red Eagle, yes, he has a point. Republicans are surging there, and it could turn into a Florida. But I'm not ready to say it's going to go this color yet. I'm not ready. I've seen no proof. Yes, the registration's super high. I get it. But I want to wait and see because I want to see what's up, like specifically for the said midterms. We have the Arizona gubernatorial race. I get the said Katie Hobbs isn't that really popular. I don't know what her approval rating is and such, but she's currently leading Andy Biggs in the polls. I'm not necessarily going to say, oh, it's her. It's going to be solid Republican. I'm not going to say that, but what I will characterize it as leaning. Now, I want to make it myself clear. This map is not going to be a 2028 prediction. It is not a 2028 prediction. This is basically the chances of the levels of each swing state, each of the battleground states, and the chances of it going Republican or the chances of going Democrat. So the chances of it going Republican, Arizona is a leaning chance, leaning Republican. So it's in the Republican column in the leaning favor. While I would basically characterize Nevada, what I've seen is from the turnout in regards to the basically the fact that the state, it's a state complex with very low non-college graduates. They dominate the state, and relatively, it's a state very similar to Arizona in regards to Phoenix. Las Vegas is like the Phoenix of Nevada. And we've seen in the result, although Clark County went to the Democrats, Kamala Harris, it only went to her by 2 points. Very similar margin to how Maricopa County went to Biden by only 2 points. But that's, and compared, yes, you see, we're making amazing gains in Clark. Because then again, we got to imagine Clark County, it's liberal. I remember back in 2020, everyone was calling her a Democrat stronghold anymore. It's not a Democrat stronghold anymore. In fact, Joe Lombardo is actually seemingly going to win Clark County. He's that popular. Most of Clark County approves of him. But you'll see that white college students, Republicans have the advantage there. Republicans have an advantage among the white non-college graduate. There are more white non-college grads than said, like, all you gotta do is move it a little bit. Then there you go. It's Republican. But what I'm saying, Nevada has more white non-college grads compared to white college graduates, which is pretty deep, a damning result for the Democrats. This isn't going to be their state anymore, period. And relatively, we usually see a state go from the Democrat to the Republican column. If I can pull up Google Docs and I can actually, let's see, Untitled Doc, and we can see if, perfect. We can actually, I can actually demonstrate this. In 2020, we've seen Iowa. I characterized Iowa from blue to red, right? Blue to, so we had Iowa, was originally, reason why I say it turns Republican. How I characterize when a state is a red state or a blue state. The state has to vote Republican or Democrat at least twice. So before 2020, or before the 2020 election, I still characterized Iowa as a blue state. Why did I do that? Well, I looked at previous election results, although they seem to be very favorable for, like, the Republicans. I'm not going to pull it up. However, Rob Sand ended up winning the auditor's race, and not to mention, actually, maybe I will, just really quickly, this is how I get off subject, so I got to be careful. Democrats did win a couple state offices in Iowa, and there a little bit, and even one result was 70%, but that one was up against the Libertarian. But I guess that doesn't really count, though. But to me, though, the Democrats were still winning races in Iowa in 2018. So I categorized it as Democratic. You'll see Michael Fitzgerald, he won. He won re-election quite easily in the state for the state treasurer. You have Rob Sand once again winning re-election. He won the election. Never mind. He first time entering office. So it's kind of disputed, a mixture of results. But got two races. I don't care if the governor's race went to the Democrat. Actually, it was pretty close, too. So, and plus, besides, Iowa was still counted as a swing state, a battleground state, a state to watch in the presidential race. So I still categorized it as blue. And I still categorized Nevada, believe it or not, as blue, because you have two senators there. So unless you have a state, like, let's just say, a republic like Nevada, and Republicans won Nevada governorship and all the other offices in Nevada, and they flipped Miss Reed's, isn't it Miss Reed? I don't know what. Yeah, the Senate race in 2024. Then I would have said yes, Nevada is indeed a red state. Although we lost offices in Nevada to in 2022, and we lost the Senate race in that that race also. And we lost the Senate race, not to mention in 2022 too. So I'm saying, yep, it's still Democrat. But if it goes Republican in 28, which I think it will, when we're seeing with the current demographic data and the registrations, I would say yes, Nevada is a red state, and I do think it will be. In 24, you might be wondering, I had Nebraska 2 actually turned Democrat because the district still voted for some Republicans. You had Don Bacon. That technically counts. He represents that. So obviously Republicans were still representing that district. So, but till 2024, I characterized now the district as Democrat like everyone else. So I was kind of unique. I was the only one analyst that was actually still calling it Republican, mainly because of the likes of Don Bacon and some state races, down ballot races, where the district was Republican in some. But now I would say, hey, the district voted for Democrats twice. It's now Democratic. But you have that also. I have a feeling in 28 that we would characterize Nevada as Republican because of the data we are seeing. And that's pretty good to know that we're on the right track. And I know we're going to keep some those states. It's not like Democrats are going to win all the swing states next. That's not going to happen. Then again, it doesn't happen often. It hasn't happened at all until 2024, where a candidate actually won all the swing states. So when fewer swing states means that there's a 50-50 divide. So that's pretty good. 2016, I characterized Florida, Ohio as actually no. I also, yeah, you get what I'm saying. I turned also Florida and Ohio as turned Republican also because unless if they go a third time, and they didn't go a third time, I can flip the two because they did vote. It's complicated how I do my magic, but 2004, Ohio and Florida did back Bush. So there was only 2 election cycles. And just because there was 2 election cycles voting for Obama twice, I indicated that, hey, look, Florida and Ohio, they just backed Obama, voted Democrat because of Obama. This isn't preferable of the preference of the Democratic Party thing. So I said, you know what, they're going Republican. So you get what I'm saying. The pattern, every election, I'm always flipping a state. In 2016, what did I flip in 2016? Actually, did I flip anything in 2016? I don't know. Actually, I don't know if I flipped anything, but then again, that could happen. I might not flip anything, but that's why I think Nevada is definitely over Arizona going to stay Republican. Otherwise, I agree with Red Eagle. Arizona is very likely to stay in the Republican column as of right now. I would want to see the midterm results to kind of get more clarification and more certainty. But I do agree this is going to remain the same. Minnesota very likely will be Democratic. That's all I can say. It's just with the Twin Cities, it's just with Twin Cities there's no Democrats in the turnout there. It's just too much. That would be the same deal with New York. But then there's Wisconsin. Wisconsin is a toss-up. Michigan, I would say leaning Democratic. Why am I saying leaning Democratic? Well, we got to remember Michigan is a bellwether, and we got to remember that every single election cycle, usually the opposition party will gain more when it comes to the party that's currently in power in the presidential race. We saw that in 2024. Republicans gained when Joe Biden was in office. 2020, Democrats gained when Trump was in office. 2016, Republicans gained when Obama was in office. 2012, Romney gained despite losing. He gained despite Obama being in office. Obama gained a lot in 2008 despite Bush being in office. 2004 is a bit I mean, we lost New Hampshire, but we gained New Mexico and Iowa. And not to mention, we won the popular vote. So that's a little questionable. Unprecedented. But ever since 2004, we've been in that pattern. And I have indicated that, Michigan seems to be a possible likely. And seeing how Michigan will usually go, I would say Wisconsin, because Wisconsin also usually follows the pendulum, where the pendulum goes. And usually when the pendulum, it doesn't mean the pendulum switches left, then the election is won for Democrats. That's not what it means. It's just comparing it to 2024, the pendulum's swinging left because they are the opposition party. The Democrats are the opposition party. They represent change. And do I like their vision of change? Absolutely not. But that doesn't change the politics of it. That doesn't change how this is politics. That's just what it is. Politics just woke up one day and said, this is the change. They're the candidates of change. Their version of change is bad, but we got to make ourselves better and make ourselves say, hey, look, what we're going through right now is good. And hey, look, what can President Trump do to change? What can the GOP and the RNC do to change? It's really asking questions like that. And looking at states like Georgia, unless you have like a very, very good candidate with and then again, 2020 was pretty interesting. You had the BLM up in arms. You had to have had a lot of momentum to get Georgia the way it is. I would say, was it because of George Floyd? I don't know. Probably a mix of George Floyd and COVID, but then again, they bought into the anti-Trump propaganda back in 2020. And of course, black turnout was huge in favor for Biden, and that helped flip Georgia. Now, I can't say the same for North Carolina, but North Carolina proved to be still pretty tilted. In fact, the state hasn't never gone in the leaning column since 2004. So that is pretty big in that case. And look at that. Republicans are almost at 270. Look at that, guys. This is good for Republicans being the opposition party. You just have New Hampshire, and really, like Red Eagle Politics said, and I agree with them, you need Pennsylvania. That's where everything's going to take place. Pennsylvania was the state that decided 2024. It's going to be the state that decides 2028, and it's going to be the new Ohio of the 20s and the 30s and the 40s and the future generations. Of course, that will change also, but we're used to seeing Ohio predict the elections because I want to be not counting 2020. 2020 was the very first time. This was the very first time that Ohio voted for the losing candidate, which was actually, yes, it said here, Biden became the first Democrat to win the presidential election in Georgia. We know that. Casting doubt on Ohio's continued status as a bellwether state. Yeah, it's not a bellwether state anymore after voting for Trump, who controversially, just saying he lost the election, you want to believe it or not. But yeah, ever since 1960, Ohio, well, not even 1960, it voted for Trump, who was the winner. It voted for Obama in 2012, which was the winner. Obama in 2008, who was the winner. Bush in 2004, who was the winner. 2000, Bush won the state. Clinton won the state in 1996. Clinton won the state in 1992. 1988, it was Republican. 1984, Republican. Yeah, voted for the winner, Ronald Reagan. 1980, voted for Ronald Reagan. Jimmy Carter, it voted for Jimmy Carter, the winner. It's a bellwether. Richard Nixon, it voted for Richard Nixon, who was the winner. Ohio voted for Richard Nixon, 1968. Lyndon B. Johnson, 1964. And the only time 1964 was when that started. Ohio voted for the losing candidate, Richard Nixon. And that's what's, it looks like Ohio learned from the 1964 error. But yeah, Ohio was probably the biggest bellwether state in U.S. history. It's not anymore. It voted for the winner this time. Could it become a new bellwether? Well, relatively, it's becoming a solid red state. It's not becoming a battleground. Meaning, if it's not a battleground state, it can't be a bellwether. So being a red state means, and if Ohio is a red state and being a bellwether state, that means that Republicans will win forever. Unless Democrats somehow, some way, get Ohio back. But yeah, obviously it's not a swing state anymore. Pennsylvania now has that. Pennsylvania now has this status, and it's going to be the state that will decide elections for a very long time. What about New Hampshire? What would you characterize New Hampshire, you might think? Well, then again, you could say Republicans win New Hampshire 272. They win the election. I would say it voted for Kamala Harris. You can't get a candidate more stupider than Kamala Harris, or you run an AOC. And maybe I would say it goes Republican, because we got to remember the gun-loving, low-tax, low government supporting New Hampshireites still exists in that state, even though Vermontians, Massachusetts, they've all moved into New Hampshire. They're drowning those sort of libertarian type of New Hampshirites that we kind of really need to depend on in order to win the state. They're drowning them out. But if you get someone so bad like AOC, who is blatantly communist, I think it's a good shot. We could possibly win. I don't know if, like Bernie Sanders, I think Sanders would probably win New Hampshire. Reason being, they're going to vote for him. He's the favorite son, okay? Favorite son is anyone that comes from a certain area who has an appeal to some sort of area. New Hampshireites will relate to him. They come from neighboring Vermont. Very similar to how the South all voted for every southern state, except for Virginia, voted for Jimmy Carter in 76. But as of right now, I would say it goes Democratic, mainly because you just can't get a worse candidate than Kamala, and if Kamala runs again, she could possibly lose it. And then there's really Pennsylvania, and it's really up to you on where Pennsylvania is right now. Is it leaning Republican, leaning Democrat? I'm not sure. It's going to be the state that decides, but I'll tell you this. Democrats, they're only getting 270 so far. Just 270. And obviously, that can change somehow, some way. Democrats could flip Georgia, but notice that Georgia's in the tilting margin. And all the other states are in the much darker red, shaded of red. That's good for Republicans. They want that. And this is pretty good in their favor. So that's pretty much all I have today. Anyway, what do you guys think in regards to this video? Let me know down below. And as always, I'll see you all in the next political episode.